You are now entering the Memory Mortuary, where your childhood is reflected, bisected, and dissected before being laid to rest. So let's see what's on the slab for our morticians today on this episode of the Memory Mortuary.
Nothing like a good night's rest on an autopsy table. And they told me I'd have to pay rent to that other place. I've got all I need right here. Gabe? Gabe, wake up!
Huh? What? Yeah, what? What happened?
Did you spend the night here?
Yeah, I was trying to sort out all our tax forms. You have any idea what the expenses on this place are? Especially since no one seems to be paying us for dissecting their childhood memories. Wait, why are you here?
If you sleep on the slab, then you never have to worry about finding the cool side of the pillow in the summer.
What?
Don't worry about it. Let's go check and see if the paper was delivered.
You have a newspaper subscription delivered here too?
3 newspapers. I like cross-referencing the obituaries. Just calculate the cost of the subscriptions into the petty cash fund or something.
Andreas, do you have a subscription for 50-gallon oil drums too?
Nope, I do not.
Then what the hell is this?
It looks like there's a note. Read it. What does it say?
For the Memory Mortuary, they had it coming. They were brought into this world in canisters, and they've left this world in a canister. They entered our lives in pieces, and they've entered your mortuary in them as well. Signed, Hero Factory.
This is scary. Alright, grab the lid. Let's open it up. No! No! Oh, God, no! It's just a barrel of body parts!
Look how they massacred my boy.
You recognize who this was?
Yeah. This crime cannot go unpunished. We must use all of our resources to avenge them.
That might be hard. I paid those subscriptions in full up front.
Their names, their legacies, should never be forgotten. Forever, people should recognize the name of
Bionicle. Each set sold separately.
Hello and welcome to the Memory Mortuary podcast. I am your host, Mortician Andreas Marangos, and with me here is your co-host, Mortician
Gabe. It's me.
And today we had one heck of a mess in front of us as we discovered a barrel of parts that we've had to put together. Gabe, I believe we've identified who this victim was. Who's come to the mortuary today?
It's the Bionicles.
Each set sold separately.
In a barrel.
In a barrel. Let's talk a little bit about Bionicles, and usually I start as I always do, which is I'm going to read a part of the Wikipedia page to you guys. Bionicle was a line of Lego construction toys marketed primarily towards 8 to 16-year-olds. Originally a subsidiary of Lego's Technic series, the line launched in Europe and Australia in 2000 and the Americas in 2001. Over the following decade, it became one of Lego's biggest selling properties, spawning into a franchise and playing a part in saving the company from its financial crisis of the late 1990s.
Yes.
Bionicles was huge. Now, of course, once again, the Memory Mortuary is located in the United States, so we will be referring to the product line as it was released in the United States. So it reached Gabe and I in 2001.
Which, feels like, I thought it was maybe 1999. I didn't know.
No, I always associate it with 2001, honestly. I always associate it with, because when I think of the 90s, I do think of the Technic series.
I think that's what it is, because I know the Technic series, when I first heard about Bionicles, I actually knew it. I thought the Technic, they were like motorcycles?
Yes, yep.
That's where I thought those were part of Bionicles when I was a kid.
Yeah, so it's the same idea, it's the same concept, where Technic, they would create motorcycles, they'd create cars.
They had a lot of the same parts that Bionicles do.
I personally knew Technic from the Lego Star Wars line when it first released in 1999, I believe. 98 or 99, I'm almost positive it's 99. 1999, Lego gets the rights to Star Wars. It becomes the first intellectual property that they get to license. And in so doing, they use the Technic series to create Star Wars vehicles and Star Wars characters. So, like, there was a Technic battle droid that you might mistake for a Bionicle. B-1 battle droid from Star Wars. So, yeah, these guys were a response to the big Lego crash of the 90s. And Lego believed that Star Wars was going to be their ticket out of there, where they paid a huge licensing fee to use the Star Wars brand, and it didn't actually work. They didn't actually recover, and the Lego Star Wars line just didn't pick up. So out of desperation, they had to start cooking things in-house, and Bionicle was really one of the very first things that they cooked in-house that had a story behind it. So it wasn't just Lego Knights. It wasn't just Lego Spacemen. It were Lego Cowboys. This was Lego Bionicles. What's a Bionicle? Well, let's tell you. Right?
Yeah. Well, they are about 7 inches, the first line of the heroes,
First wave.
Toa.
Mm-hmm.
They've had, how many waves? Maybe, I want to say 12.
Oh, there were
First
a
gen,
lot
I had a lot of waves. Each wave had the bad guys and the good guys. The good guys were I want to say they were the Toas, is what they were called.
Sorry, the good guys?
Yeah, the Toas.
Yeah, the Toas.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There were 6 of them. The fire one was the leader.
Yeah.
The only female one, which was the water one. A lot of people didn't even really know it was female because there really is no, different. The only way you really know that is if you followed the web series they had on the Lego website.
Yeah, and to actually be fair, let's actually call them by their names. So the fire one is Tahu.
Tahu, yeah.
The water one you're referring to is that would be Gali.
Gali, okay.
Gali. And then there was the one that was all in black, and he was kind of like the rock smasher.
He was like the Earth.
Yeah, the Earth one, he's Anua. And then there was the green one, which obviously I don't have in front of us right now.
Yes, we actually have a couple of them in front of us.
Yes.
The first 3 that we just named.
The green one was Liwa, and then the snow one, the white one, which I liked because he had kind of like a scope for an eye.
He had a shield.
It's Kopaka.
Yeah.
Now, I remember I had owned all of these at one point.
I did too.
I had the whole line. I think we said all of them. Yeah, I think we said all of them.
No, you missed the brown one. That was the rock-kicking one, the one that...
Pohatu.
Pohatu, okay. So yeah, there were all 6 of them. Then there were the 6 villains who were basically the same, just same elements, they're opposites. And the villains, I can't recall their names.
Well, the first wave of villains, they
came out later.
They did come out later because there were a lot of little ones.
Yes, there were the tiny ones, which were...
Those were called the... quite frankly, I don't remember what they were called, but I have pictures of them here. But they were little solid ones that were... I think there were 3 parts.
Yeah, there weren't too many pieces to them. They came in bags. They had the McDonald's one.
The McDonald's line. And
they had the rubber arms.
And in a lot of the cartoons and the video games, they were the main characters.
Yes, they were the main...
Summon the...
Yeah, it was mostly because that's how they would start, and I know one of them in the movie, there was a movie, took on the golden mask and turned into, that golden Toa.
Yes, the golden one.
So I think it might be an age thing. They look like that when they're younger, and I think they end up growing up to what the Toas look like, now.
Well, when it comes to the villains, the first wave of villains were the Borok.
The Borok were the...
They were the roly-poly dudes.
Yes.
They remind me of droidicas.
Yeah.
From Star Wars, or destroyers. They would curl up into a ball. And
you could roll them. They would show them in the animations for the commercials rolling around, and then they would,
And these were freaking awesome. I mean, these were... they're so cool, because... Gabe, you shared something with me today. What was one of the things that you shared with me today? Before we even talk about the packaging.
Okay.
Yeah. What did you share with me today?
So they have heads that are kind of glass-like, and they have a mask hidden inside. The mask is very alienish looking, and it's a mask that can actually fit on the faces of the Toas if you remove their main mask. The reason for this, if I remember correctly, lore-wise, it was the enemy ones their feature is you pull this thing, you press down on this thing.
Yeah, you press down on the lever.
And it would launch, they would jolt their head forward, and sometimes, if you push it hard enough, it will open up their face and release that mask. It was sort of like a alien, thing, like the face hugger. Go on them and turn them evil.
And it would replace the mask that your Toa Bionicle, your hero,
the hero,
which each one had a different colored mask that matched the color of their bodies and everything.
their element.
You'd replace it with the alien mask, and it would be like as though they were taken over. So that's one play feature. Now,
That was one feature. Yeah, the other feature.
there's so many things. The other one is the package itself. Go ahead.
This one I didn't even know about until last
recently.
year. Yeah, it was just last year.
This
learned
is what
about
I
it.
shared with you.
Yeah, you shared with me. You said, "Here, take this Bionicle." It was, the one you're holding now. And inside these packages, they're cylinder packages.
And that was something. I'm sorry, not to jump in, but that's something that we didn't mention about the Toas. All Bionicles come in tubes.
Yes,
They
these
come in these
oddly
plastic,
shaped tubes.
oddly shaped tubes. The originals were perfectly cylindrical, and you'd unscrew the top, and all the pieces to your Bionicle were in it. You'd pour out the pieces, and you build your Bionicle. They did the same with the villains. And for the Bow-Rock,
Yeah, for the Bow-Rock, there was this one extra piece inside the canister that I wasn't sure what it was as a kid. I mainly threw these packagings away after a while, which I kind of regret for this one, because the extra little plastic piece inside, it actually attached to the top of the canister, and it had a little piece on it that actually fit perfectly onto the Bow-Rock.
it's almost like a chip clip.
It's like a chip clip, and it fits perfectly when you have it rolled up into its ball form. So then when you put it back inside the canister, it's hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah, it's hanging from the ceiling, and you get to look at it. It's almost like a bat hanging from the top of
A bat or like some test tube creature just hanging from the top, and it looks incredible. You can if I still had one of these, I would love to keep it in that form inside the ball, wrapped up and attached to the ceiling part, and then I would put some liquid in this or something, like a dyed liquid, put a light under it, because it's so actually really cool. It's a great way to store them too, back in these canisters, and they're upside down, they're in their circular form. I'm not sure if the others had anything like this, all the other Bionicles. I know later on, the other seasons, like series, you had to really scrunch up some of them to get them to fit back in their canister. And I think this might be the only one that had some sort of innovative way where it was like, look at what you can do. You can keep them upside down on the inside and plenty of room for them. It was awesome.
I was looking at a later wave of villains, and we're going to get to that now. So we've covered the main wave, then there was the first wave of villains, and Bionicles, they just sort of kept the heroes in production and would phase in and out the different types of villains.
Yeah, they would always have another series with a new wave of Bionicles that came out with more innovative stuff. The next wave for the heroes, I believe, were they the ones with the discs that would throw out things? They would come out with something new each time. They look completely different.
Yes. So
the next one were the armored ones.
Yes, and so in 2002, summer of 2002, so what we'd be looking at is, initially 2001 we get the heroes, 2002 we start to get the villains, and the summer of 2002 is when we start to see a new wave of heroes that are similar to the first wave, but they're all like super armored.
Yeah, they have armor plates on their shoulders, their chest, their feet. All their weapons were like revamped.
And I was never as into these as the first wave. I always thought the first wave just looked better. But I did sort of like the white one and the red one.
The red one came with a dual sword.
Yeah, now
that would then be turned into...
original red one was kind of weird because he had one arm that had a play feature where you would spin the dial on his back,
swing his sword,
and he'd swing his fire sword. But in the left arm, he had what was supposed to be either like a gun or
I always
something.
saw it as a hand.
Maybe it is a hand.
A strange hand.
A strange hand, but there's not much of a playability to the thing. It's just very strange.
All of them were different like that. They had the different gears that you would attach to them.
But the red one really only had one arm that was geared.
Yes.
The other arm was just sort of free hanging.
It was the same thing with the white one. The white one also had one hand that moved. The blue...
But he had a shield and a staff, but... With the second wave red one, although I liked the first wave look better, the second wave red one at least had
two swords
that
you could then attach to his feet and make it into a surfboard. That's what it was like in the movie or in the animations they would use too. He would jump down from the volcano, he would attach them and use it as a surfboard, and it was awesome.
And as we further go down the line, Then we reached 2003 summer sets, and the 2003 summer sets are where we get what would be called the Rakshi.
Yes, the Rakshi are the ones with the stabs.
Yes.
That was probably, I don't know, that one was very, not creative. The only difference you saw were in their colors and the different ends of the staff and their spikes.
Yeah,
that was the only difference.
They all had sort of the same play feature, too.
Yeah, they would
spun
swing.
the dial on the back and they'd swing. So I never, as a kid or now as an adult collector, ever felt like I needed more than one to understand. Like, I don't feel like I'm missing anything. I just pick the one that I think looks the best, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
I have it represented in my collection. Now, the one thing I did like about them is that they were taller, about 8.5 inches tall on the green one here. And they're all legs. I mean, these legs go all the way up.
Yeah.
And they're fine. The one, besides the swinging of their staves, the one play feature that they seem to have had is that you could open up their long xenomorph kind of back head, and inside you'd find the little
I guess that's their
worm
brain.
creature
it's a
brain.
If I remember correctly, lore-wise, these are brains, the things that control these Bionicles.
They're Yeerks.
Yeerks.
They're very similar to
very
Yeerks.
similar to Yeerks from Animorphs.
Very similar.
Which,
now.
if you haven't,
listen to episode 4 if you haven't.
Yes, that's a very interesting episode with some themes that are shared in Bionicles. But I believe these were the brains to these creatures. Like, this was their actual real form, this worm.
Yes.
I'm not sure. I don't think the other villains continued down this path of having these rubber little brain or extra features that were inside all of them. They had quite a lot. They moved on to I want to say it's the third wave, was the sort of primal-like one, where the villains were very aggressive-looking. I think they were called the... Oh, man.
I've got it in front of me, so I can actually confirm...
Well, not that one, not the New
these... Yeah, the Vaki. The Vaki is the names. New Rock is one of the Vaki.
So is this the third one?
These would be the third group of villains. There was another group of heroes in between.
Yes.
Where they just sort of, once again, upgraded them. Your Bionicle heroes, gave them new armor, new weapons, so on.
Yeah.
The next wave, and this is where I started to teeter out. 2004 was probably when I bought some of my very last Bionicles as a kid growing up. And it was the Vaki. Now, the Vaki were stout, short, very horizontal, very spider-like. And they had all different sort of arm, mismatched weapons, depending on which one you bought. Once again, there's one for each color. But their main play feature is that they had these big insect mandibles.
Mandibles, yeah.
That you could put
a disc
in, and when you squeeze the mandibles together, it fired out the disc.
Yeah,
I really liked those.
That was the gimmick for that series. The heroes had the same thing.
Yes, and I skipped over those because it's the same thing. But yes,
the Red Toa had one where it was actually in. Was it a shield, or I might be thinking of one of the actual.
I do remember one where its hand is just.
Oh yeah, yes. No, yes. It is like it looks like a bow gun, sort of, and you'd squeeze the sides, and it would shoot out. All these discs, by the way, were they were glow in the dark. I remember that.
Yeah.
They also had the language of the Bionicles written on it, and I think it would say the names of the characters. If you want an idea of what it looks like, the language, it's actually just circles with lines and dots in them. They have, I think it uses the English alphabet, like just ABCs and all that. They would have that written on the weapons. I don't know if they had them on the canisters. I don't think they actually started with that language on the first set. I think they developed that later on.
And something I always love about the packaging is the first set, all the sets, they all come in these canisters. And the canisters continue to keep this fun breaking of the fourth wall. I would say until the Visorak, which those had been released in 2005. And personally, I believe 2005 in the United States is where Bionicle starts to make its descent towards getting a little redundant. That's at least when I started to break away from it. And all of the representations of Bionicle that I would ever see in pop culture would always refer to the earlier things that we've just talked about.
Yeah, I never see anybody really talk about, I'm looking at these sets as well. I think 2004 was the Toa, The Toametru. The villains for that one, I never even liked. Actually, I can't even tell if these are villains.
Which are you
Weren't
looking
these
at?
the good guys?
Those were the good guys. And you're looking way later than I ever got into. Because at that point, I'm pretty sure sales started to plummet during that time anyway.
Yeah. There were also, just to mention, there were lots of different forms of media for Bionicles. There were comic books. There was the movies.
Video games.
I remember as a kid, I really wanted these, and I'm glad I didn't get them, because looking back at them now, they're very stupid. There were shoes where the front of the shoe was the mask that you could replace the rubber and be any of the other characters.
That is really cool.
It was awesome, but when I look back at them, I'm like, these are really ugly looking.
Do you think they make them in adult sizes?
I have to look for them. Because I would want them so badly as a kid. I begged my parents.
More or less than you would want Heelys?
Yeah, it was...
More or less?
More. Because I didn't understand how you could use Heelys. So instead I got my own ghetto Heelys, as I'll call them, where instead they had a button on the side that you'd click and it would jolt out the roller skates.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, you remember those because they were heavy as hell and they were loud when I walked.
Mm-hmm. I remember.
They were embarrassing.
Yeah, they probably, when you walked, they probably pulled on the lower part of your leg and separated your knee joints. So now you probably have a lot of fluid built up in there.
Well, no. They're definitely...
No, I'm pretty sure I diagnosed you, did.
We'll see me on the slab eventually.
One of the...
A toast.
A toast.
The Bionicles.
The Bionicles. Each set sold separately.
Oh, God. Don't worry, people. It's water.
His is water. I'll just tell you one little off story because it looks like we're making good time. One little small story I have is you're talking about fun sneakers. Well, I remember I always kind of wanted Heelys, and I was a little too afraid to ask for them because I knew they were expensive, so I never asked for them.
Is this a Heelys episode now?
Never mind. No,
I won't
tell the story. I won't tell the story.
No. Talk about it.
Because it's going to go on the episode where we talk about Heelys and Y-ties. So
were Y-ties the shoes that... Oh, my God. Y-ties... I only remember that because our school did a fundraiser thing where we tried to sell this bullshit to people. And it was like...
Do you remember the Y-tie superhero?
No, I don't, but I think
Remember?
I want to say... I don't remember. I want to say I still have one at home, just somewhere.
I will pay you for it.
I remember buying them because as a kid, I did have trouble with tying my shoes. I never fully understood it. I was pretty stupid. Yeah, no one ever taught me. Okay? No one ever taught me.
We're keeping this in.
I know we're keeping this in.
We're getting rid of all the other shoe talk, but we are keeping in just the blurb of you saying, never knew how to tie my shoes. Still don't!
Okay, no. I
use chip clips.
And that's why I bought them, though. I bought them, I was thinking, I'm going to use these myself. And they suck. They are the equivalent of bendy straws. That's what they look like. They're spring-loaded shoelaces that didn't do anything. It was like, you don't got to tie, you just got to connect them through and squeeze and boom. They were shit.
I loved them.
You loved them?
I did, I loved them.
I thought they were terrible.
In 2002, when you're getting all patriotic because of the Iraq War, you get the red, white, and blue ones and you wear them everywhere. But just to wrap up my story that you interrupted me about and told me not to tell, I'll finish it now out of pride.
Here we go.
I wanted Heelys. You know, Gabe was cool. He had the Bionicle shoes.
I did not.
I know you did.
I was too broke for them.
So my family didn't have enough money, of course, to get Heelys, and I was too afraid to ask. So instead, I was just happy with whatever my family could get me in terms of shoes. I didn't really ask for clothes in that way. But I remember that I had gotten... my parents had asked me what kind of shoes I wanted to get. Like, do you want to get a fun type of shoes? And I was too afraid to ask for Heelys, so I said, can I get anything Yu-Gi-Oh related? It's 2002. I said, could if there are any Yu-Gi-Oh shoes, could I please get them? I saw that my friend had Yu-Gi-Oh sneakers with Kaiba on the side and the Blue Eyes White Dragon like shooting its white lightning attack on either side. I was really hoping my parents would come home with that. Well, it was about November. So it was getting close to winter. And my parents come home, or my mom comes home, and she has a pair of shoes for me. And she said, well, these are the only Yu-Gi-Oh shoes I could find for you. They were flip-flops. They were Yu-Gi-Oh flip-flops. Velcro that you can tighten on the top. It was November. And the following day, it rained, and it rained, and it rained, and in the morning, it rained, and I woke up in the morning, and I looked out at the rain, and I really wanted to wear my new Yu-Gi-Oh! Shoes.
Flip-flops.
Flip-flops. So I
Get it
put
right.
on those shoes, and I said to myself, my feet are going to get wet. So I put on some socks.
Where's this going? I put on some socks.
And so I went to school wearing socks and Yu-Gi-Oh! Flip-flops, feeling cool. I walked up to my friends. They didn't say anything about them. We had gym that day. I had to sit out. And the gym teacher said to me, and I quote, "Why are you wearing flip-flops on such a rainy day?" And I said, "They've got Yu-Gi on them." What I would have done for some Bionicle sneakers.
On that day.
On that day, what I would have done for some Bionicle sneakers.
I ended up missing out on playing, what was that TARP game? Where we would, all get in a circle, we'd hold the thing, and we'd throw it up, and then you have to run to the other side. You remember?
That wasn't at school, Gabe.
That was at school.
No, that was at the weird camp you went to.
Oh my
The
Don't
one,
do this
The
to
one
me.
where they hit you with the Bible all the time.
Don't do this to me. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I hate
Yeah,
you.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
You missed out on that? Is that what
No,
it was?
I was there. I mean, I had to sit out, and I'm pretty sure on that day, it was actually, I remember that day because it made me really sad. It was the day that they brought out the little rolly skateboard things.
Oh, yes!
And you had to sit on them and you get pushed around.
Yeah.
And the gym teacher was like, you can't wear flip-flops with those, they're going to run over your toes. So I get to sit out and just watch them and
What
say to
kind
myself,
of gym activity
well,
was that?
at least I have my Yu-Gi-Oh! Flip-flops, which I could no longer wear when winter came just the following month.
And so you didn't wear them in the summer, or you didn't wear them next
Oh,
year?
my feet were too big, but I still tried to wear them.
Okay.
I mean, that summer I did wear them, and my toes were kind of coming off the ends of them.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Bionicles.
Yeah, back to that. Basically, this all led up to, I really wish I had the Bionicle shoes right now.
So do I. There was so much.
Whatever.
So much of Bionicles had to do with marketing beyond just the
Mainline toys.
main line of toys.
You could get some from McDonald's.
Do you remember the
Toothbrushes?
toothbrushes?
Yes, because I had one.
Oh, okay. I
I
had
had
one too, and it came with removable masks.
Yes, yeah.
So and that was something great about Bionicles was
a lot of
they had a small collectible feature beyond the big collectible feature. Big collectible feature is, hey, for $6.99, you go to the store and you get a Bionicle and you build them and you've got your action figure with your play features. But when you go and buy smaller products, like toothbrushes or a promotional comic book, you would get another mask. And you could replace masks with other masks.
Yes, there were variations of a lot of the older masks, the different colored ones, clear
Yeah.
ones, gold ones, a rainbow sparkle one. I had the movie one, but I had the rainbow one where it's all clear white and has bits of glitter inside of it. It looked so awesome.
Yeah, and
So great.
so the masks themselves were a collectible feature. They eventually did mask packs. I saw that.
I think I
I
remember
was
that.
beyond. I'd already moved on from that, but
Yeah.
I do know that those ended up existing. And to me, one of the big things that I used to almost dream about in 2002, when getting into Bionicles, and you mentioned it offhand, was the Golden Mask.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about the Golden Mask?
Yeah, the golden mask was great because it came with the movie.
Oh, okay, all right. So you're talking. All right, yeah. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
What other golden mask were you thinking of?
Well,
Or are you talking about the real gold?
there was the real gold.
There was the
mask.
real gold
Now
mask.
those
that was
came
a
in
contest.
the mask packs. Now I remember right. There were mask packs that came with like a contest. I don't remember if it was a McDonald's promotion.
I don't remember what it was.
I think it may have been a McDonald's promotion.
Yeah, it was
But
probably-
I think it was. And the idea was when you went to McDonald's, you got a small little Bionicle dude that was pretty much two pieces.
I still have one.
You do?
I still have one.
Yeah, it's about two pieces. You clip them all together, and you got a randomized mask. There was a chance that you could get an actual
Gold mask.
that was a representation of the mask as it would be in the movie, but was also allegedly real gold.
Yeah.
Now, who knows if it was a gold leaf paint or if it was a solid gold, whatever
I think it was
is.
actually real gold.
Do you think so?
They have made the one that you're holding now, the original red one. I forgot his name again already, but who cares? They actually made that mask of his gold.
Yes, that was the real gold.
Yeah, there's a real all gold one.
And that was a big deal. I used to dream about being able to get my hands on it.
Same.
And then there was the movie, which had the gold mask within the storyline.
Within the lore.
And then when it came out on VHS and DVD,
you were able to buy it and get it.
Buy a plastic gold mask.
Yeah, plastic. It was, it's just a gold paint on it, but it looked great. And then eventually you could also buy the hero as it was
gold
a separate
mask hero.
Yeah, it was a separate set. They made plenty of those. They were called the Titan series. I have one of them that I still love. I think you would, if you find it on there, I think you would love it as well. He came on a T-Rex like dinosaur thing.
I remember that.
Yes, and he would ride, and it was a two-set. You had to buy him separately. It was like, here's his monster, and here's him, and he was massive. He had an awesome spear and a shield that had the. You would press the button, or no, yeah, it was like you press a button and it would release the little spinny disc.
Yeah,
yeah, and then he had another one at the bottom that you couldn't release, but it was a storage for the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I still have that one to this day. He's my favorite one. He was like all silver, red, and black, and it was awesome.
Working in the Memory Mortuary means that we come across a lot of nostalgic memorabilia, toys, merchandise, etc. And, as an adult and someone who considers himself to be an adult collector, one of the things that you need to do is to minimize what you collect. Because if you go and collect every toothbrush, you're a lunatic. You are.
Yes, yeah. That's a little too far.
Yeah, you're a crazy person if you're doing that. And I'm sorry if you're listening to this and you've collected each toothbrush.
Well, where do you draw the line?
Well, so this is where I draw the line. This is where I draw the line. So these different pieces of merchandise come rolling in every so often. And when they do, I have to decide whether or not I'm going to loot the body.
Yeah.
I'm going to loot the corpse, or I'm going to leave it and I'm going to let it pass and move on.
Okay.
To me, as a collector, I find that the original 6 are really cool.
Yes.
I'd like to own the original 6.
Yeah.
Here's the reason why I don't have them, and this is where this ties in, where I'm going with this. Here's the reason why I don't have them from when I was a kid. Gabe, I need to ask you, when you were given Bionicles...
No, I never did. If you're going to tell me, did you take all 6 and combine them into the one mega one that the manuals would tell you about?
Well, did you do that?
No. I had a friend who did. He would buy all 6, he would combine them together, make the mega one, and yeah, they look cool, but I couldn't do that.
I thought they were messy.
I also had the friend was also creative at making his own, which I was quite jealous
Well, that's where I'm going to talk to you about what my experience, my memories of
making
Bionicles are. Because Bionicles, to me, when I got a Bionicle, I would get it, I'd open it, I'd build it, and I'd keep them built for maybe a couple hours. At best, maybe a couple days. Maybe a week. And I mean, that's pushing it. And what I would end up doing is I would take all of the parts, I'd take them completely apart. I'd keep the manual, just in case I ever wanted to rebuild them. Mm-hmm. But I'd take them completely apart, and I'd put them into all the pieces into a bucket, and I would make my own Bionicles. And that was the interconnectivity, this modular thing where if you collected an entire line of the 6 different colors, you could combine them into one giant one. Or in some cases, there were different variations where you only needed 3 out of the 6. Yeah. If you gotten these 3, you can build this one. Or if you gotten these 4, you could build this one. And to me, I had a friend who felt the same way. And what we would do is build the biggest, baddest Bionicle that we could. And there was a science to it. You had to make sure they could balance and stand. And you also had to get the gears working right so that you could give them a play feature. So I remember I had one where both of his arms swung and he had 2 really long swords. Something else you could do is you could take the body pieces, and when you're building something of that scale and that magnitude, you would take the single body and you'd stack them on each other.
Yeah.
So that they had more depth and more width and they had more weight when they were standing up. And I remember my friend and I, we would say, hey, build the best one that you can. And I would go do the same, and then the next day we'd sit out on my stoop and we would pull these out, and we would just start rotating the play feature on the one that we built and swinging it, and they would just clash into each other. Like it reminded me of almost like what's that Viking movie? Breakfast at Tiffany's. What's it called again?
Viking movie? There's so many.
You know, the one with the guy who got pulled over and he said the anti-Semitic stuff. Mel Gibson.
Oh God. When we had the face paint on?
Braveheart.
Yeah.
So-
That's Scottish.
Scottish.
Yeah.
All right. So it reminded me of
Braveheart.
Like when they go and they clash together, because we've got our action figures, and there was no neatness to it. It was very much like let's see whose breaks first when we beat each other up, and it would be a lot of
You'd
smashing.
be there for hours because these things were tough.
Things are durable.
The plastic on these they're gonna outlast us.
Yeah, I mean, when you were handling my vintage Optimus Prime, I said, hey, please put it back in the box carefully. If you were to be handling these Bionicles, I would tell you, you just throw it in the corner. I'll deal with it later. And I would be, it might be in pieces.
Yeah, it might be in pieces.
But it's still going to connect back together.
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
these things are tough. Sometimes when you got the wrong parts and the wrong joints, you'd really have to, they still make the squeaks today,
You don't ever have to worry about that with Bionicles. Nothing, I mean, these, unless you put them under
serious heavy load.
Yeah, or if you threw them in the oven, I guess they'd warp.
Yeah.
But there's no looseness to any of these, and they're clocking in at 19 years old now.
Yeah.
At 20 years old, if you consider that they were using the same exact molds and designs when they had released in 2000 and overseas. So it was just a high-quality product in general.
And then it started going downhill. And I think that's where we should talk about.
I think you and I have a little bit of a difference in where we think it went downhill. Personally, I think I start to see things going downhill in 2005 when the packaging itself starts to become less durable. In 2005, we get something called the Visorak, and they come in a kind of slimmer packaging.
What year was that?
2005. So that would be right
Wow.
It would be right after these. It would be right after these guys.
Yeah.
Oh no, right after Spider Dudes.
Yeah. Because I think I only own one Visorak.
I have not seen this until today. I didn't know this existed until right now.
I have one, yes.
Well, that's fine. To me, like, I see this and it doesn't, the concept sort of reads Bionicle to me.
I like it. It reminds me of the first series.
Then maybe this is where we differ.
I will tell you, it actually has definitely gone downhill when they got to the... I can't remember their name. You might want to look it up on there.
Sure.
They are... So, anybody who knows anything about Bionicle knows what I'm talking about when I mention the rap.
I'm sorry?
Yes, the rap music. These...
Oh, no.
These villains...
Oh, God, I forgot.
They were supposed to be criminals. They are the Paraka.
Well, is that the name of their group?
Yes, the name of their group.
Yes, the Paraka.
They are. They were supposed to basically be criminals. They broke out of a prison, I believe.
Okay.
That was the whole commercial of them. They had a rap video. They had rap music. They had their own Paraka rap, and it was.
I'm pretty sure that I was already in college by the time this was coming out. So.
It was a banger. That's all I could say. It's so stupid. I think this was also at the same time where the good guys got their own song, but the people said, they were like, we're not going to make a rap music video for them. We're not going to make a rap. We're just going to get a licensed song. So they got the All-American Rejects band.
Oh my God, I remember that commercial.
Because it was awesome. It was like,
the good guy commercial.
The good guy commercial, yeah.
Yes.
They come out, it was in like the rain or something.
Oh, what was the song? Was it...
It was like moving on.
Move along.
Like a no.
And they all came together.
Yes.
In the commercial.
And they would clash.
Oh my God.
It was awesome.
That was a banger.
It was, yes. I
forgot about that. Well, so I wasn't anywhere into collecting Bionicle at that point. But I do remember seeing that commercial and thinking to myself, you guys are still going strong. You know what? I was wrong, Gabe. You were right. These things had lived longer than I thought they did.
Yes, that was the start of decline. The rap was bad. But it was like, It was a good schlock bad.
Okay.
But this was the downhill part of Bionicles. This is when you're like,
So this
okay.
is where we start to see the decline. What happened here?
Not just in the, oh god, this is starting to get weird, but they started losing plastic. They had less
Replacing
parts, lots of rubber parts. There were no masks for the Paraka. They were just a whole rubber face that went over a part. So they all had these big gritty teeth, like they were like this.
That sounds
iron,
like death to me.
Yeah, iron jaw, and
Now,
everything was rubber.
We're looking at the corpse. We're looking at all the body parts laid in front of us. We're trying to decide when the hell this thing died. That sounds like death.
Yes.
Because if the whole thing was born of masks, the whole idea was even the villains gave you alternate evil masks. As soon as you forsake that idea, and you start giving these rubbery non-mask things, that's it. That's game over.
Yeah, and then
You've given up on the primary ideal of your intellectual property.
but the canisters were cool because they had their faces on them at the top.
Yeah.
It was neat looking design.
But regardless, you believe that to be the downfall.
Yeah, I mean there were definitely signs before that. Some of the other, and it always seems like it was the villain, types that you would see, and you're like, oh no, this is, you'd see them first, like the parts just changing. And it would then spread to the hero ones. Yeah, it started getting more rubber parts, less pieces, less creativity from them. I imagine they still had the, fuse all 6 of them into some Omega one.
And here's where I'm talking about too. The packaging's disintegrating.
Yeah.
Nothing for a mask. It's thin. It's got like all these holes to show off the sword, but it's weird. It just doesn't.
And they had weapons that were they would shoot out marbles basically. And I guess they were fun. But
That sounds kind of cool. But
here's the thing. All the other Bionicles, they all had different weapons. These guys, every single one of the good guys had their own, bow gun that shot a ball thing. There was no uniqueness to
I
any
understand.
of them.
So they all had the same weapon. They were just different colors.
Different colors, yeah. Different colored marble, different colored weapon. And then some of them had, a sword. But still, there were lots of similarities. And it was just starting to lose.
You've got the
uniqueness.
hammer and chisel, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because to me, I know that Bionicle's first gen, and really it's only gen, because if Gen 2 isn't even a conversation to have.
No, we're not.
Gen 2, 2015, Lego attempted to bring back Bionicle.
And it died in 2016.
Within a year it fell apart. So that wasn't even a generation. That just didn't.
I wouldn't even. Yeah, no. I didn't hear about it. I refuse to even acknowledge it as a thing. And I think Lego probably wants it to be that way too. They don't want to talk about it either.
Fun little thing is that Lego does acknowledge that they exist. If you've seen the Lego movie, the Lego movie has one shot. It's a second.
In the second movie or the first movie?
First one.
First one, really?
In the first one, very early into the movie, when what's the girl's name? Storm Shadow? Wild Style. Not Storm Shadow. Wild Style. When Wild Style is explaining to Chris Pratt all these different worlds exist, she says there's Fantasy Zealand, there's Star Wars world, there's this world, there's this world, there's this world. One of them that comes up is Bionicle.
Mm.
And it pops up really quick.
Yeah.
And so there is sort of a crime in the fact that Bionicle, in my opinion,
was heavily ignored by Lego. They screwed up.
now, but I'm going to say I think there's a huge, huge crime in Bionicle being saved by Lego being saved by Bionicle.
And you know what's weird too? They mentioned I don't know if anybody's seen this, but there's a Netflix series called oh god, what was it?
The Toys That Made Us.
The Toys That Made Us.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Lego one, and they mention Bionicle as saving Lego.
Saving Lego.
And it's very quick. There's nothing, they don't go in depth about it, and it hurts.
That Lego wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the Bionicles.
Yeah.
And what happened? Lego came around, they went and replaced them, they said, listen, you know what, we're done with you, we got the money we needed from you, and guess what, you know what, I'm finished with you. So they took them out back, they chopped them up into little pieces, they put them into the barrel, and they left them in front of our doorstep at a mortuary.
With a weird sign that said Heroes Factory.
Yeah, now what is a Heroes Factory?
6 pieces? That's it. It's 6 pieces, you put it together, and And it just looks awful.
Give me the context as to what Hero Factory is allegedly supposed to be. I've encountered a Hero Factory once.
It's a Bionicles replacement with far less pieces, with no creativity in it.
No real lore.
No lore at all. Like nothing. It's garbage. Bionicle. I wish I could say I was so into or well known. Like I really know the lore, and maybe someday we'll come back and revisit this with a real expert. Because if you knew about Bionicles as a kid, you knew anything about it, and you might not know this, but it has one of the deepest lores for any toy line. For anything, especially for Lego, it's definitely their deepest one.
Yeah.
It's very Lovecraftian. It's all these things of, they're all living on this body that's floating in space. And
yeah, so
and
the land they live on is a Bionicle
and
itself.
And the villains are supposed to represent cancer cells. Yeah. And it's like, it's very deep, and it's strange, and there's lots to it. It's spread out through comics, through lore books, video games, through the web series, through the web games, and they had a lot. There was there was one game that was leaked that they were planning to make. It was maybe 35% done.
Yeah,
and it's a shame it didn't come out because it actually looked like a very good platformer. I think it was coming out for the PS2 and the PC, and it just looked great. And it's a shame.
Yeah, and let me just add something, because a lot of times on our show, we may talk about an old show like Bionicles cartoons or any kind of animated old series, right?
Yeah.
And we may talk about them with these nostalgia lenses over us. And a lot of times we try to identify that. We say, listen, this is probably just nostalgia talking.
Yeah.
And sometimes in this case, we say, you know what? No, there was actually a really great core idea here, and there was so much going on. And so on and so
I refuse to call this any nostalgia glass.
No, and I'm not saying it is. But what I am saying, though, is if you're an adult listener, don't go back to the Bionicle cartoon and expect to, have an adult experience with it. And I find that a lot of people do that, where a lot of times, there are people in popular culture who really rant and rave about how deep certain cartoons are. This cartoon is so deep, it's got so many layers and this and this, and yeah, sure, but it's always with the context of it's a piece of media intended for children.
Yeah.
And so the only reason I'm saying that is because I don't want someone to walk away from this podcast, go watch something that was animated in 3D in 2001, and say, oh my god, these guys have terrible taste. It's all through the context.
Yeah.
And the context of when you are that age experiencing this story through the mediums that were possible at that time, it's lightning in a bottle. And I say that a decent amount on the show, but I mean it.
Oh, no. It's definitely, it deserves that. Bionicles it's incredible. I think they really built up a great world and lore that didn't go used.
Yeah.
And there's lots of, I wouldn't be surprised if, there's someone out there who's picked up on it and used it in their own sort of thing. I've read things online by the people who worked on the lore who were really passionate about it, or like, oh yeah, there was this much that we had planned out for it. And they clearly thought this out, and it wasn't just like, yes, we know this is a kid's toy thing, but we also wanted to have it be for, the older audience too.
And, Emily says this a lot, right? She says that when you are marketing for children, a lot of times there's two different avenues. You either take the approach of children are dumb. They won't even think about it. Children are dumb. Or you treat them like people.
Yeah.
And you say, you know what? The kids may never actually get to this lore. They may not understand the little minutia.
And I definitely did it.
And I didn't either.
Yeah.
But if they do, they'll appreciate it that much more. Or if they realize it later in their life, they'll appreciate it enough to take it and think of it as valuable to then carry on to another generation.
And that's
which sadly Bionicles never made it to.
It never made it, but
made it to I can't go and tell my kids, hey, you know what? Let's go to the store. I think you're going to love this toy. It just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, and I don't think it'll come back. And it's sad because there was lots of crazy creativity with these guys. The designs, all the different parts used to create whatever you wanted. Things have gotten simple and cheap, and even if they did come back with these, there wouldn't be anywhere near this amount of depth the lore has.
It's like what we talked about with Tech Deck Dudes. If it came back, it would come back because it's recognizable, not because that there's somebody there who says, you know what, this was a quality product.
Yeah, they wouldn't come back to it because of like, you know what, there's a lot of untouched things with the lore and the story, and we could build off that and make a whole bunch more. Instead, it would be, people know what this is. They know what it looks like. Let's just make another one. Yeah. And they would cut out all of the,
all
fresh...
the trying.
All the trying. We wouldn't have anything like the commercials of, the bad guy and the good guy going at each other with this music, and there was like... It was strange.
There would be a pay-to-play game on your phone.
That
would be the advertising and also the primary source of revenue.
Yeah, you would pay for different poorly colored masks.
Yep.
Dance
collect
moves.
dance moves.
All this garbage, and it's so sad because I would have loved to see Bionicles grow, especially seeing from the leaked game. Though they clearly could have made some amazing things. And I'm gonna look into more of the lore and actually read. I'm gonna go back to the lore books. I have some.
And so I do want to make something clear though to go back to my other point. You're gonna go back and look into the lore of Bionicles.
Yeah.
I may do the exact same thing because I'm super interested. Would you actually sit down and watch all of the animated films?
I would, because...
Would you? Okay, I wouldn't.
Because
I don't think I could bring myself to do that.
Because only 6 years ago I did that.
Okay.
I rewatched the first movie, and it's sort of just a coming-of-age story.
All right.
They pull some very subversive things that you would go, okay, that's not what I expected.
Okay.
And it does, it definitely didn't age well design-wise. It looks pretty
that's
bad.
why I wanted to give context to the listeners, because what we promote is a embrace of the memories and an embrace of the positive feelings that came from a generation that now is gone, right? I mean, we're still alive, but my point is that you said the toys that made us, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the toys that made us is very 80s focused, but in the terms of 90s and early 2000s...
There's still toys that made us.
Yeah, and there are still cultural things that came, very much, we were very much 90s kids, early 2000s kids, and I have things like, we talked about Technics. I had those, and that's why when Bionicles came and I was slightly older, I was like, oh my god, this is even cooler. So there's a context to the things, and there's the point of the show is always to absorb in the memory, and not as an advertisement for you to now go out and buy every second-hand Bionicle DVD you can find. Because that's not the point. The point is that if you can relate to this thing, then I'm happy you can. And, follow us on Instagram. And leave a comment, I think, if that's a possible thing. We have a ghost of Instagram that does all this for us.
Yes, yeah, there's...
if you leave any message on Instagram
and you get a reply, it's a spiritual entity that runs it.
And I mean this, I do not run... Neither Gabe nor I run the Instagram or the... do we have another thing?
I mean, I guess we have YouTube.
There's a YouTube. Maybe there's YouTube comments.
Yeah.
So regardless...
SoundCloud comments.
SoundCloud. Follow us on SoundCloud.
Spotify.
Or whichever ones you're not listening to right now. Whichever format you're not listening to.
Whatever you're comfortable with, use it.
No, do all of them. He's wrong. So my point is that we're not trying to advertise that you now go out and consume product. The thing to me is that if you relate to this, please go ahead, leave a comment.
Share your memories.
Share your memories with people who have them, or even if someone doesn't. Gabe, you had memories about Bionicle sneakers.
Yes.
I wouldn't have been able to think of anything along those lines. And I enjoyed that you shared that piece of your humanity with me. Your human experience. And that's really what this is about.
Yeah.
Because this is a mortuary and a lot of dead things come through. But hell, we're alive, and it's the human communication that matters most. Yeah. And maybe that's why some of these things mean something to us. Not because I want to sit on the floor and smash these Bionicles together. No, it's not that. It's that there are human experiences connected with this stuff.
Yeah.
Gabe, if you could put a wager down right now in this recording, are we seeing this come back within our lifetimes or not?
Yes.
I agree.
Yes.
Not well. It might
Not
come
well.
back bad.
Yeah. I don't think
But
it'll ever come back with the same amount of detail as the original when it comes to, they had comic books lined up, movies, video games, and the web series. They had all of that planned out because there was already a deep, rich lore there. And instead, I think we're just going to get something half-baked. We're going to
I'm going to say it's
get
going
the
to be
characters.
as soon as 2022. I'm going to mark
2022.
I think is when we're going to see these.
Wow.
There's going to be a 20-year itch. There's going to be Lego is going to say, "Oh my God, we've hit the 2.0.
That's true.
What product do we have to or is it 2001?
It's 2001.
I'm sorry, 2021. Next year. Next year we will see an announcement that more will come out.
And if they do it though, a 20th anniversary thing, I think I'm going to keep my eye out on it, and I think I might buy something.
Okay.
Because these were, if there was one thing that I got into as a kid, it was things that were very robotic looking, things that were mechanical.
Oh, I agree with you. I mean, I'd collect the Transformers.
Yeah, I didn't really collect Transformers, but I got into Gundam. I got into Robocraft, Macross, those sort of things, and I just love the way they look. I've always been a fan of robotic things. So, and if I see them bring it back and it looks up, like this 20th anniversary version looks anything like the originals, hell, even if it's just a re-release with like higher quality molds and stuff and more parts or something, I'm gonna get it. Why not? Just to have one at least, because these things made up the things that I like today.
And that's one way to go about finding that niche of our culture that makes us happy, right? For me, if a new one came out, I probably would have the urge to be like, oh my God, the feeling of cracking open a new Bionicle. But I think my approach is still going to be, I have a certain connection to the original 6.
That's right.
I have 3 of them. And I really want to try to get those other 3.
I lost my original set.
Gave mine away.
Yeah, I have...
Which I don't regret, by the way.
Yeah.
I have no regrets on anything I've ever given away.
Oh, because you pass it on to someone else.
To someone else who gets it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's, sometimes I hear a lot of adult collectors say, oh my God, if only I had held on to that thing, it was worth so much, and this and that. And you want to know, I don't ever feel that way.
No, I don't feel that way either, because you pass on the same joy and experience that you had.
Yeah.
And that's, important. It's like, hey, they might end up coming out of this with the same experience, and they're going to pass it on to someone else. They might treat it the same way you did, or maybe
not.
They won't, but that doesn't matter. As long as you gave someone the chance, especially now when Bionicles are gone. If you still have some and you want to get rid of them, give it to a young kid. Give it to someone. I mean, I'm not saying pick your buyers and like, hey, don't give it to this collector guy, but
no, it's
to pass it on to someone.
If you have the opportunity to better the life of
someone who
a
has
younger person
who hasn't experienced Bionicles, it's great because there's nothing else like it right now.
Yeah.
There's no toy with as much creativity, and it's also a pretty good learning tool. Like, you're reading manuals and following directions, and I know lots of people who would do that.
Lego still does it.
Lego still do that, yeah, but
there's less moving parts.
And these were very advanced for their time. They're great.
Yeah.
So to pass that on to someone else now is it's a good thing.
It is, and we do have to wrap up soon because we are pushing the time here. So let's wrap this up with the same way we do it all the time. Was it murdered? Given all the evidence that we've just accumulated, given all the memories that we've shared about the life that this thing has lived,
murdered. Don't have to think about it.
I don't have to think about it.
Lego went down a path where they started to come out with these designs that were just not absurd, but I think it had to do with the parts. They started to come out with these rubber parts and less pieces as well. They simplified things, and it just didn't look that good too. If you take the first series and compare it to the very last series, they look nothing like each other. Like, you would think, looking at Series 1's like, well, where are the other parts that cover up the skeleton? This looks like the insides. They look completely different, and that's why I have no, love for them. I'm like,
I have a different theory as to why I think it was murder. Lego desperately tried to create its own intellectual property because it went and it spent a ton of money on Star Wars, hoping that Star Wars would pull it out of its 90s funk. And Star Wars didn't. And so they desperately came up with Bionicles, and it worked, and it got them out of the hole. And then what they decided to do with that money is then buy the rights to everything else. So Lego, you go into the Lego section, and there aren't...
There's nothing original.
If you can find an intellectual property from Lego, it's impressive, because it's all Lego Simpsons, Lego Star Wars, Lego Lord of the Rings, Lego...
Indiana Jones,
Lego
Overwatch,
Lego
Minecraft,
Lego Pokemon, Lego.
There's
and what they did was they created what they needed to get themselves out of the hole. Then they took the money and spent it to buy the name and face of anything else that was popular, and gave up on trying to cook their own the homebrew. Really, they gave up on it. And I would personally think that there may have even been less funds. I can't prove this. There may have even been less funds, less manpower going into Bionicles, because it was no longer the cash cow. Because how can Bionicle be the cash cow when you've now touched every single subcategory of culture? You haven't put all of your eggs into the Star Wars basket. You've put your eggs into the Star Wars basket. You've put it into the video game basket. You put it into the fantasy basket. I mean, there was no reason for them to continue an intellectual property that was their own, that needed writers.
Creative team that would flesh out the universe, the world,
There was no reason for it. And so what did they do? They chopped it up into little bits, put it into the barrel, and they gave it to us. And now we're looking at the parts, and we're honoring what it was.
Yeah. I think, they didn't respect it. They gave up on it, and they definitely did put their eggs in all these other baskets and just said, we don't need this anymore. It got us out of our
problem.
Yeah, and now can move on from it, and it's a shame.
Yeah, and so I honor it. You honor it.
I honor it too.
We raise a glass. We pour one out. To Bionicles, each set sold separately.
Thank you for visiting the Memory Mortuary. Our morticians are Andreas Morangos, Esquire, and Gabe from the city of Metro Nui. Our intro music was composed and performed by Christian Deckpatel. Our cover illustrator and social media manager is Emily Barksdale. That's me. If you're enjoying the podcast, please follow or subscribe on whatever platform you are listening on. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Memory Mortuary. We'd love to hear your feedback on these platforms. Join us next week as we perform another autopsy here at the Memory Mortuary. We're sorry for your loss.